Beach Talk Radio. Here are your hosts, Kim and Ed Ryan.
And a good Monday evening to everybody. Welcome to another episode number 21 of Mondays with the Mayor. And before we get the show started, I did want to thank everybody for showing up to our concert Saturday night at Moss Marina. A big thank you to Studio AD architect Albert and his sponsorship. He helped out with all the expenses to cover the show, the stage and the band and the other expenses that we had to pay out to make that happen on Saturday night. Thanks to the bands, Bill Beck and Split Decision. Split Decision had the folks out there dancing on Saturday night. They were awesome to have at that event. So thank you to them, and thank you to the town of Fort Myers Beach for approving the permit, and the fire department and everybody who helped out and came to the show on Saturday night. And now we're getting ready for our 5K race and run and walk on the 13th of May. That's less than 2 weeks. We're up to 271 registrations. So we'd like to hit 300. And the last 2 weeks, so we have plenty of time to do it. So if you, it's on the Facebook page now. If you have a chance to share that to help us get to 300, then we'll be able to write a nice check to the folks at FMB Strong. So that's coming up on May 13th. The race kicks off at 8 o'clock on Saturday, right in Times Square. The start and the finish line will both be in Times Square. And the show today is sponsored in part by our friend Jorge Barrera. He's a friend, and he's friendly and caring. And that's what you want when you're buying and selling a home on Fort Myers Beach or anywhere in the area. He's got 5-star Zillow reviews by the millions. He's donating 10% of his commission to local FMB hurricane relief organizations, and he's donated so far just under $35,000. Also, Liberty Roofing and Construction, your trusted roofing company. They are certified to provide the industry-leading manufacturer's total system 50-year warranty, and your roof will be done within 30 days of when you get a permit. So give Patrick McKenna a call at 401-439-9585. That's 401-439-9585. And there he is right there, the mayor of Fort Myers Beach, Dan Aller. Dan, thanks so much for coming on. Episode number 21, and we're back on Monday.
Yes, we are. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to kind of go back and chat about was it seems like for whatever reason, the debris is being picked up again on Estero Boulevard, which is great. That's all everybody ever wanted. So who's doing it and who's paying for it?
Well, it could be a lot of things. I can tell you it's not the town. It could be some of the houses could be Ian debris cleanup leftover because they were tearing the houses down and then pushing the debris, their concrete slabs out to the boulevard. So most of it's probably that would be my guess. I haven't heard anything from the county as far as them coming in and doing any pass yet. Said they get back to us, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter as long as it's getting picked up.
Do you think that all that's out there now, other than what might have been pushed out after you took your pictures last week, you think it's all going to be eventually picked up?
Well, I certainly hope so. I think eventually it'll all get picked up. It's just a matter of timing of when and where. At least now, like we said last week, we have a starting point of stuff that we know was out there at a specific date. So if there's other houses that have stuff out there, they're gonna be on their own to pick all that up.
Somebody sent me an email today that they noticed that somebody had actually dumped debris that must have come from their house or a house or something onto their property, like somebody else's debris onto their property. And I shared that with Keith and Andy. And I guess the process when somebody illegally dumps on your property is to call the town and call the sheriff and try and find out who did it, I guess. I mean, I don't know if you got to go rumbling through the trash to find something that identifies what house it came from, but that really is the only thing you can do, right?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we won't be able to stop all of them, and bad people will do bad things. They've kind of warned us, some of the other people that I've talked to, that, the debris, as it goes on, starts to become a mess where people do this in the middle of the night, go and dump debris. But I could tell you the Lee County Sheriff's Office is taking that very seriously, and if they catch them, I wouldn't want to be them. Marcino Motel's always got room.
And the other thing that I saw video of was somebody actually had debris originally on Estero Boulevard and then moved it to a side street. I mean, people getting all kinds of creative because they know the side street is they're still being picked up.
Well, I saw that same picture, and I saw that same. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I assure you, it was not the town of Fort Myers Beach, and I can't speak for the county, but I'm quite confident it wasn't them that came and picked up debris and moved it to the side of the road. But contractors, I think word is getting out that the town and county and the state are looking very closely at this. Tomorrow, I'm going to be reaching out to a company that either was smart enough or dumb enough to leave their sign on a property that they cleared out, that I noticed the other day when Commissioner Sandelli and I were out checking out the beach. Their sign is still sitting in front of the massive pile that's taking up half the sidewalk on Estero. So they will be getting a call from me tomorrow to ask what their plan is to pick that debris up.
Well, got it. That's I don't know if that's smart marketing or not. Apparently not in this case.
Well, like I said, they'll be getting a call. It may not go anywhere, but they'll certainly be getting a call.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, by the way, for the mayor, just feel free to type them in there and we'll put them up on the screen. I did have one topic I wanted to bring up before we got to the lighting, but of course I can't remember what it was. So why don't we get right to the lighting? It was a big topic today at the town council meeting, and it appears as if Estero Boulevard is going to get amber lights pretty quickly.
Yeah, the whole thing started last week when we met with FPL about what are we going to do as we're getting into turtle season to be able to be as compliant as we can or fully compliant. So they went and came back with the two scenarios that they had, and as I said in the meeting today, my goal was to make sure that it got out in front of people to be able to understand exactly what they were going to be getting, whichever way it went. Amber was selected, and so now people at least know what that is. And I think they said by June 1st, they'll hopefully have all of those lights up. It won't be the side streets. We're still working through the appropriations requests with the state to try to get that done. I'm hopeful that happens. So none of us have to talk about this again. And my only concern was the road is really dark now. We've lost you don't realize how much ambient light we lost on that boulevard, but we are in turtle season now. We're going to see where it goes with the side streets being visible. The last thing we want to do is turn lights off. A dimmer light is better than no light at all. So I'm just thankful that we're moving forward with something, and hopefully we'll get that long-term or forever solution.
Yeah, and just to get into the details a little bit, the amber lights that the FPL is going to install are not the final amber lights. This is a temporary solution. Can you explain why?
I can't really explain as to why they're not putting up the new lights. These Cree lights were already in their program, their tariff program. They're less efficient. They obviously have less of lumen output than the ones that will be going up through the tariff or through the the appropriations that we're trying to work on. I think Eric touched on it a little bit today, is to availability. When I did ask him about it, they're still working with getting brackets. This was a couple months ago when he and I were discussing it. There's bracket issues that they're trying to get in. So it has to do with a lot of that. The new system will be completely buried underground lighting and new poles that would be owned by the town. So I think it's a win-win for everyone if we can get that done, and I'm confident that the state will come through for us.
So the light that's going in now is temporary. Is it because that the other light is still being tested? Is it still? I know there was a light that was being tested. It seemed like it was the most tested light ever on the planet Earth. Like it took forever. Did that light pass? Yeah,
my understanding is that cleared all the testing. That light, if I remember correctly, is like 90 or 100 pounds. That new amber, that's a big, heavy light that requires some really beefy bracing to hold it up, as opposed to the lights that you see up there now. They're pretty small compared to what the new ones are. If you remember seeing what they look like on Old Sand Colors Boulevard, it's the newer version of that. It's the same manufacturer, just a different model number, but essentially the same big box light that you were looking at.
And so will the temporary lights that they're going to put up by June 1st, will there be continuity throughout the entire boulevard? Like, will enough of that light cover all the dark spaces between the next pole, or do they have to install more poles to make it happen?
Well, they're not going to install any more poles. Essentially, what
Okay.
they're going to do is they're going to take and put the 131 light fixtures up that are out there now on the 131 poles. So they'll take down either the two different types of lights that they have up there now. They'll take those down, and it'll be the same amber Cree fixture throughout all of those 131 poles. I did ask that question about the foot candles, and Eric basically said, no, it will not meet the foot candle. What you're asking. Yes, there's going to be dark spaces, but it will be turtle compliant. Hopefully, we won't have to shut any lights off. Side streets, we're going to have to deal with that when the time comes, if that is an issue. But right now, we'll have the amber solution. It's going to be what it's going to be at this point until we can find out if we get the money to move forward with the other lighting.
And now, what would you need the money for? If FPL puts these lights up, for some reason they're temporary, why not just leave those up? What do you need the money for?
Well, it's not back to exactly what you just said. The lighting is going to be it's not going to meet all the requirements. It may meet the requirements for what we have to do to follow turtle regulations, but it won't meet the foot candle regulations. Okay. It won't be bright enough. If they just don't have the power they just don't have the output. The lumen output is, what's out there, I think is 14,000, they said, or 15,000, and it's going to go down to 3,300. So it doesn't, don't want to get in the weeds, but that's substantially dimmer. There's not as much output, but it's the wavelength is there that needs to be there. The shielding still has to go up because that's, whether it's amber or not, is still required. So they'll be installing that, but we'll need more poles. And that hasn't been a secret. That's been since the very beginning, since the MPO study. It's been, there's going to be substantially amount. We were going with the Cree fixtures. Now going with the new light fixtures, they're working on the design. They haven't got the exact number of poles yet, but it's significantly less than what the Cree fixture is on there now. So if it comes down to cost, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to keep the same inefficient Cree lights that are out there, they're going to put up, you would have to have a lot more poles than what the new fixture would be able to cover.
Now, how much money are you asking for specifically for this project from the state?
$7.9 million.
And is that money going to be? Is it going to be a yes or no from the state, or are they going to try and funnel that money through Resilient Lee?
No, well, we're still trying to figure that out. That's going to be that $350 million appropriation that you heard Chris talk about today.
Yeah,
it would have to come through that at some point. We haven't gotten the details as to how exactly that a grant style system would work to funnel that money down. We're still working with Ron Book, our lobbyist. We're still working with Adam Batana, Senator Martin, Senator Pasadomo. We're still working with them to try to get as many answers as we can to find out. I'm hoping by the end of legislative session we'll have a better idea of what we can do to get that money to be able to make that happen, because it's something that is required to happen. So we're hoping we can get this solution so we can all put this long overdue project to rest.
If the state says no to that, what's plan B?
Well, what we have out there is going to be plan B. The Amber Lights is plan B until we can.
Okay.
There's really no other way to do it. The town doesn't have the money to do it. There's just, Lee County doesn't have the money to do it. The hurricane really depleted a lot of the reserves for them and for us. So it's we're really hoping the state comes through for us.
And so the legislative session, it's going to end soon, isn't it? I mean, they don't meet very long.
Yeah, I think it's 2 weeks from today. It's I think
okay.
It's the end.
Gotcha.
I don't remember the exact date off the top of my head. Sorry.
And if the state says yes and you move forward, is the town in the power business then? Or, I mean, do you own the system? No,
we would own the system, but we would still need the power from FPL with that $7 million. So essentially what it would be doing is be going from the public side to the private side of FPL's company. So it would be a privately owned. They would install it. They would maintain it for the first 10 years. So fixtures that break or something happens, it's part of that $7.9 million. So I think it's a good program. I know we didn't want to get into the owning a lighting system, but I think this gives us an opportunity 10 years from now, technology is going to be a whole lot different 10 years from now. So it gives us an opportunity to at least have some control over what we do with the system going forward, whether it's just continuing to maintain the lights because they're working well, or if we have to change them out for something new that works better, it's more efficient, which is probably what's going to happen 10 years from now. It gives us that flexibility to be able to do that. It works out for FPL. Like I said, we're still going to have to buy the power from them to power the poles, but and they would be the ones that would be maintaining the poles for us and the lights for us. So I think it's a good solution. It'll get us, like I said, 10 years down the road and at least put one of these major projects to bed.
Okay, so the cost, FPL made it sound like today that the cost wasn't going to be all that much more expensive for the residents once these new lights get put in. Well,
the temporary solution, the amber lights that are going in, I think he said it was about $100 more per month. It's going to cost.
Yeah.
They're putting it in. They're putting them in for through the tariff program, so that cost isn't going to be there for us. So it's a minimal cost to the town in the grand scheme of things to get the temporary amber lights up. But in the long scheme of things, I don't know exactly what I'd have to go back and look at my notes to see what the new bill would be versus what the old bill would be. Obviously, there's going to be more poles and less efficient light, so the monthly bill will go up. But I don't know that it was a dramatic amount. I mean, it was significant enough that it matters, but it wasn't horrible compared to what the Cree fixtures would be with the 200 and some poles that we would need to create that coverage that you were talking about earlier.
And what happens after the 10-year contract is up? I mean, then is it something change? You said for the next 10 years is going to be a deal.
Well, the 10 years is the maintenance part of it, the maintenance contract part of it. So FPL will maintain those lights. Like I said, should something get damaged, whatever's involved in the maintenance, they handle that for the first 10 years. That's included in that $7.9 million cost that they gave us. So after that, we can either re-up, just like any other contractor that we work with. You can send it out for bid, get people to come in to bid the next 10 years or whatever it is, maintenance contract. So it could be FPL again. It could be some other company. It could be the town, depending on where we're at then. So it just gives us some flexibility. But in 10 years, we will have to look at who's going to continue that maintenance program because the town will own the system.
What's amazing to me is that this topic has been going on ever since I started the show. I mean, it was like one of the first things we've ever spoken about on our show. And FPL is going to be able to install all those lights in 1 month.
Yeah, it's just essentially swapping the head out. I mean, the power is already there on these poles. So they said whether it was going to be the shielding or whether it was going to be the switching to the amber with the shielding, it wasn't going to take them very long to do it. I mean, they quickly went out and put up those two shields on the two lights that they installed on one by the town hall and one on Avenue C that are still there. You can actually go see them anytime you want at night. You can't miss them. There's a black shield that hangs down about 10, 12 inches from the fixture. So that's blocking the glare of the light to the beach.
I guess my point is, why didn't they just do this like 3 years ago? It just seems like it's so simple now.
Well, it's been a struggle. As I said in the meeting, we had quite a few meetings with Charlotte and Eric and other people from FPL, and every meeting it seemed like there was more and more people, and we kept hearing, no, we can't do this, no, we can't do that. We went through our lobbyists, we went through the state, we went through Director Guthrie, we tried to attack this from every single angle. And we weren't going to give up until we got a solution that was going to work for everybody, that was going to keep us compliant, but provide us the amount of light that we need to make sure that our residents, bikers, walkers, pedestrians, everybody had what they needed to be able to go on forward and not have to worry about this again. So we obviously saw the poles. Everybody sees the poles held up, but they didn't have hardly any poles that they had to work with. The concrete poles held up really well. So we went and we battled with FPL. Every turn there was a no, then there was a yes. So we ended up getting to this solution that I really do think is in the best interest of everybody. But it took I was probably not as nice in some of those meetings as I probably should have been, but we got to where we're at, and hopefully we can bring it home soon.
Yeah, and the white light option with shields really wasn't an option. That was my reading of it today. It really was never an option. There really was only one option on the table today, not two.
Well, it was not a compliant option. That's
right. Okay.
and there's nobody debating that. The fact is, I the two options that they brought to us, which were brought out today, as I said in the meeting, Keith and I didn't feel comfortable with making a decision one way or another. I thought it was something that needed to go to the public so that the public could see it. The council members needed to weigh in on it because, and I say the facts are not what is needing to be compliant and what's not, but the facts that I was referring to that Steve Johnson actually was talking about during his public comment was that it is, we're in a different circumstance now. We've got rebar, we've got concrete, we got all those kind of things hanging out on the sidewalk. And by putting the amber lights in, it is going to be darker. There's no doubt about it. There's no way around it. That's a fact. It's going to be darker, but it will get us in compliance with turtles. That's what was voted on with the council today. So that's the direction that we gave FPL. So now we'll move forward. So to say what you're saying is essentially true. There really wasn't any other compliant option other than amber, and we're going to be hopefully going to amber anyway. So it just made sense. But I just wanted it to be out there that it is going to be it's going to be much darker than it is now, and people need to be careful, especially until we get all this debris off the right of way.
Yeah, and I also think, and I could be wrong, that there are going to be houses and residents who never ever thought they were going to be contacted about lighting because there's so many open spaces now between where they live and the beach, and their lights, which were probably blocked for so many years, are now not going to be blocked because of the open space. So everybody really has to try and figure out what's best to keep the lighting correct and in compliance, and you could have a house that you never ever would have expected would be shining white light onto the beach. That'll be doing it now.
Well, that's obviously a concern and things that we're going to have to keep an eye on. There's far less houses on the beach now than there was before, so being able to pinpoint who's a violator of the white light will be much easier than it was before. So, we just have to keep pushing that people need to be good stewards and close your blinds and do what you can do to help protect what we're required to do. But even though we're required to do that, we also do have a requirement, in my opinion, that public safety is, in my opinion, our number one job. So making sure that our residents and visitors and are safe is just as important. We may not, we're required to do both. So we need to do what's in the best interest of everybody, not just one side or the other.
And today, folks, I mean, I'm sure you all know this that are watching the show, is that today started turtle season. It's turtle nesting season, and it runs through October 31st. And I got a picture from Turtle Time. There was a false crawl this morning. Doesn't mean it was from a light. It could have been from a light. It could have been just because the turtle freaked out and realized things were way different than last year. I mean, I don't know. I got notes from people that say turtles are smart and they understand things and all that. I mean, who knows what it could have been caused by? But it is turtle season, and you do need to close the blinds, shut the lights off, and pay attention to all the lighting. For the rest of through October 31st. So,
yeah, and hopefully, like I said, to keep bashing on it, but hopefully we can get this through. And Eric mentioned that by next turtle season they could have the entire island system up and running. So that would be great, I think, for everybody. And I'm pretty sure that we'd be the only barrier island that has a true 100% amber solution on side streets and everything else. I could be mistaken, but I don't know that there's many that have their entire island that would be an amber solution.
I got a couple of notes over the weekend, and Susie puts the question out here. I don't know if you know this. I didn't send this to you in advance. Do you know what caused there was some kind of power outage, I guess, I think it was over on the south end of the island that I got the note from in the Bay Beach area. So did you hear anything about that, or do you know anything about that?
No, I did not. I mean, we had that strong storm.
Maybe that was it.
But I don't know if that is the same night. It was what she said last night. So the storm, I think, was on Saturday night that came through. Yeah. So it wouldn't have been that. No, I have not heard anything about a power outage. I see Kathy Nash is asking about the right of way.
I did want to bring that up. Yeah. Go ahead.
That's it is county right of way, but the town received a check from them a year or two ago from the county to plant and maintain that. So it is the county right away, but it's the town's responsibility to maintain that strip of grass that you're referring to between the sidewalk and the boulevard. And actually, you and I have been talking about some ideas on that. So.
Yeah, I mean, strip of grass has given it a lot more love than it really is. It's a strip of weeds. I mean, I don't know what the hell kind of grass that is, but I mean, I don't know if you can grow grass and sand and glass and debris now anyway. So,
yeah, we're starting to see a lot more rock in yards now as opposed to so maybe there'll be some leftover lawnmowers around that we can get out there and start doing some work on it if we need to.
So there's a big meeting Thursday night at Diamond Head. This Kevin Ruane's committee is kind of fanning out all over the county and doing these town halls. And why do you think it's important for residents to pay attention to this meeting or to attend if they can? It's going to be at Diamond Head from 6 to 8 on Thursday night.
Yeah, I think that you heard Andy today say he would make sure that we could get some staff available to make sure that this broadcast so people can see it.
Cool.
Which I think will be very helpful. I don't know if there's going to be a way you can ask questions virtually or not, but it's very important because that HUD money is there to help everybody in Lee County. So your input, being the hardest hit area from the storm, it's very important that our residents participate in this and bring forth what is important to them because one person can't think of everything, and even 5 council members and staff can't think of everything, and maybe something gets overlooked. So I think the more people we have involved, the better off we'll be. And they're there essentially to gather information and put forth a plan. So when the registry sets out what the requirements are and what falls where, that they're ready to go with their action plan to speed up the process as fast as we can. We know that the CDBGR money, it's going to take years for it to fall, for it to come down. So being ready and having a good plan. So I like the fact that they're going around and listening to the municipalities and the residents and finding out what's going to be that action plan that they put forth. And I think they're putting together a committee. I think the county's got some committee they're putting together to kind of spearhead this.
Okay, I don't want to assume everybody knows what you're talking about or what we're talking about. And this Resilient Lee Kevin Ruane committee, they're going to be responsible for distributing this $1 billion that HUD sent down to Lee County, correct?
I don't know that the task force will be specifically their task is to gather the information and make recommendations to the BOCC, and the 5 commissioners then decide, how this money gets spent. But it is a very important task force that they're gathering information, putting together the action plan. But the final decision will come from the BOCC.
Okay, and part of the requirement for that $1 billion is that 70% of it has to go to low-income areas. And so my question to you is, how does the Fort Myers Beach doesn't have any low-income areas? So how are you going to get any of it?
Well, that's 70% of it is that low to moderate income that you're talking about. There are waivers, as you heard Chris talk about today, that you can go through, and he gave some examples. It's just a matter of what qualifies as a waiver, what can you do outside of that 70%. And I think that's what the task force is working on. They're gathering all the information, all the wants and the needs. And then once the registry comes out and they have a clear path of what they can do, then you can start talking about what waivers can you put in for certain things that are outside that 70% to help bring those funds down. And when they came down and made the press conference at Beach Baptist about it, and talking with the secretary, she was, you can have a plan to do other things, and talking to the people that are going to be reviewing how this money gets spent. There will be opportunities to get money outside of that.
Okay, and the registry that you're talking about will be a list of the projects that the county board uses this money for.
It comes from the federal government as to basically it's the guidelines. And
okay.
Once you see that, then the county puts together an action plan to submit for review. And then that's how the process kind of goes through. I'm still learning about it too, because it's all new for me.
What are a couple of the projects that you'd like to see considered in this program?
Well, all of our projects are kind of this. I mean, we need everything, our infrastructure, our town hall, our lighting. I mean, we lost everything. So we're going to go to every funding source we possibly can. The goal is to try to make things more resilient. We want to make sure I think a lot of things that are important. I think Councilor Veach touched on it today. I was talking about it in an interview this weekend, almost the exact same thing that Councilor Veach was talking about. We really need to take a look at our infrastructure for communications. We need a good comm system to be able to talk. Everybody remembers right after the storm, you almost had no cell phone service. You really had no way to, there was no cell towers. It was very hard to communicate with the outside world. It was very hard to communicate, within the town hall, within people on town hall. So that's very, very important. We've been talking with the fire department about trying to come up with a plan. We're going to sit down and have some meetings with them as to, an action plan coming into hurricane season. How do we work best together? How do we make sure that we are communicating, who's going to take charge at what time, if there's search and rescue again, that we have to do things like that. But, one of the things that Chief Worth brought up, what I thought was very, very interesting and very important, and makes a lot of sense is, we're not going to be able to force everyone to leave if we ever have to deal with this again. But if we can advocate for people to let fire and rescue know, let Lee County Sheriff know where you're at, and I just use us as an example. People knew that we were staying, but if you didn't know where we were staying, you would if no one could get a hold of us, you would come look at our house. Well, we weren't there. So knowing where people are who are choosing to stay, I think would really help speed up that recovery process, really shorten the length of time that it takes to find people by knowing ahead of time where they're at. But they have to be able to communicate, whether it's, Morse code, CB radio, whatever it is, enhanced cell towers. So that, I think that is a very, very strong thing, having a stronger facility, the Bay Oaks facility that we were in the process of building before the storm was going to be a hurricane rated building where we could have it, use that as a shelter for people to go to get, high and off the ground and withstand the storm. So I think projects like that could fall within this HUD funding. It's all about making things stronger and more resilient.
Yeah, Kim and I were talking about it over the weekend. I don't think anybody's staying at the next one. I mean, I think a lot of people definitely learned, especially, you see a storm. We had a little bit of a storm that we had Saturday. I wonder how many people, that went through the storm were just freaked out by that. And they will be for years. But I mean,
you heard a lot of stories about that. I mean, our camper is extremely heavy. It's one of the reasons we bought it it's a very heavy camper. And this thing was moving. It was rocking pretty good. And I could see how some people would probably have some PTSD from that, not knowing they can't go outside and but it sounded like they were dropping concrete cinder blocks on the roof of this thing. It was loud, it was windy, it was moving, and we saw the aftermath of it the day after. You saw some videos of some of the roofs that were blown off again. So it was definitely a reminder that Mother Nature can be pretty wicked when she wants to be.
Yeah. So have you gotten any word yet when you might be back in your house? I mean, you're out 7 months now.
Yeah, we're hoping that I think this week there's going to be an final inspection called for plumbing and probably electrical. So if we pass that, then we can get the CO and move in. I mean, technically we could probably be in the house now. The air conditioner works, the lights work, the plumbing works, but we got to wait for that final CO with electric and plumbing, and still some work to be done. But it could like lanai hasn't been done, nothing like that. So, stuff outside isn't done, but we could potentially be in the next couple weeks.
Nice, very nice. Have you seen a drop down in the number of complaints about permitting? I mean, it seems like there are fewer complaints.
I haven't had a complaint about permitting. I've had several compliments to permitting staff that I forward on to them, but I haven't had any complaints. That I shouldn't say that. I think I had one like a week or two ago, but it was they just didn't understand what the rejection letter meant, and it was the same thing that most of them have been that I've been involved with, and it was just not having the information for windows or not having the information for the door that proves that it's it's rated to the wind load that it needs to be. So it was a very minor thing that was corrected very quickly, but I haven't nothing like 5 months ago.
Outrigger needs to call your roof man, the one with 50-year warranty. So and it sounded like today at the council meeting that town is ramping up even more on the permitting side. It looked like your finance director was moving around some money and some things, and it looked like there were getting ready to hire more staff as needed.
Yeah, the town managers are very much aware at how much this council wants to make sure that that's our road to recovery, is making sure we can get people permits as fast as they can. Once all the state resources went away, we had to take a little step back, but it gave Steve the opportunity to be able to look at what he has, look at what he needs to make it. We want to bring as many things in. We want to bring it all in house if we can, just because it helps with the process. It just makes it so much easier than having to send it out. So I think, Steve and Joe did a very good job today, I think, presenting that plan, and they'll start implementing it now that we voted on it. And hopefully we can get people, these people don't just fall off trees. So we're going to work very hard to get good people in here that want to make sure we're getting these things done as fast as we can. And it's not just getting the permit, it's closing the permits out. It's, bringing them through the full cycle. There's, I look around at just randomly, I'll look at some things, and you see some of these abandoned permits that never got closed out for whatever reason. And, it's things like that we need to keep an eye on and keep getting things closed out so that potential new buyers aren't being stuck with something that they weren't necessarily expecting.
At some point too, the town is going to start going out and telling these derelict homeowners. I shouldn't call them that. I really shouldn't have said that. But there are homes and businesses that are just sitting and haven't been touched. And eventually the town's going to want that shit cleaned up. And so I'm guessing there's got to be some kind of process to go and knock on a door or figure out who owns it and say, hey, you got to clean up your mess. It's been 8 months, 7 months, whatever.
Well, there's so many different scenarios there. It's not just like the hazard mitigation, for instance. People that are going to lift their house or they're going to do something to make their house stronger. They've got to wait 6 months to a year to find out or to get that money to get that match. And if you do anything before that, you don't get it. So that's part of it. Part of it is insurance, although I think that's kind of coming to an end. Part of it was Ian debris cleanup, but that's now come to an end. So we're kind of getting to the place. And then there's some people that are just, we're not going to do anything. We're going to, I talked to a couple of property owners whose properties are washed out, and they think it's the responsibility of the government to come in and fill their property in with sand.
Come on.
I wish I was kidding. Or that there's some magical program out there that the government's going to come in and do it for them. And that's not necessarily the case. So we'll work through those issues. It's only been 7 months, but people that have worked hard and done the right thing and are trying to do the best that they can for the the community. And then you've got one or two bad apples, as Vice Mayor Ederholt likes to say, that don't feel that they have to do anything or really care. So those are the ones that we're going to have to deal with, and we'll deal with them according to the process that we have in place, and eventually it'll get taken care of. It's just a long process.
Okay, a couple of lightning round things here. When has town hall demolition been scheduled yet? Is there a date for it? Because I definitely want to be there for that.
No, that's on my agenda to ask the town managers tomorrow. I didn't get a chance to talk to them about it today.
Okay,
and I know we're still waiting for the final FEMA signed off.
Gotcha. And you said you were with Ray Sandelli. Did the Times Square, Lynn Hall Park area come up at all, or that's still kind of
No,
one of those things?
No, we were specifically just looking at the emergency burn project, seeing how it was going. We were able to go out on the beach and go up and down the entire beach. We did stop and look at like Lynn Hall Park. We stopped and looked at Bowditch. We did all those things, and he was asking what we'd like to see, and so we had just broad 10,000 foot view conversations about it, but nothing specific. We are still working with the county to try to get together to formulate what Times Square is going to look like, or the downtown district is going to look like. But it's a process.
One of the things I learned today from Chad was that the north end of Fort Myers Beach, I think from Times Square up, they're not eligible for any of the emergency berm sand.
I believe what he said is it was an engineered beach because it had gotten sand before. I don't remember exactly the year he said it, but that had received sand before, so it wasn't eligible. But it will be eligible for the renourishment.
Well, who makes up these dumbass rules, man? I mean, it's not like that side of the beach didn't get hit with the hurricane. I guess it all started.
There's a lot of pros and cons between an engineered beach and a natural beach. It's just which one works out the best for you. I see that Holly's got a question about
Yeah,
Senate Bill 714.
that is one I sent over to you. So just for everybody's knowledge, that Holly's question was about Senate Bill 714, which was passed by the Florida Senate 28-10 and is pending in the House, and that's regarding short-term rentals. She says among the bill's provisions, it would require short-term rentals to register with the state, not just locally, limits local governments to charge no more than $50, which would eliminate the town's $100 per bedroom fee, requires local governments to accept or deny short-term rental application within 15 days, require occupancy, parking, trash requirements for short-term rentals to be applied to all residences, not just short-term rentals, and creates penalties, suspensions for short-term rentals, non-compliant with some suspensions lasting as long as 6 months. So how do you want to attack that?
Well, so Senate Bill 714, yes, did pass. I think it was 28-10. That doesn't mean it's finally now it's going to the House bill. The companion House bill is 833. There's a lot of language in there that has changed. For instance, that I just actually looked. Our lobbyist Ron Book sent me over the latest version that was just changed. I haven't made it through the very, very large amount of pages yet, but the $50 thing, for instance, that has changed to $150. I did call John Herron and talk to him about it because I was curious to see if what I thought it meant was exactly what it would mean. We still are grandfathered in. This is essentially for municipalities that didn't have a short-term rental ordinance in place before 2011. So we're grandfathered in with our rules that we have, but we would have to follow the fee structure that would come out of this. So it wouldn't have as big of an effect on us as what people initially thought. So we were following it. I particularly was following it because I know this is a big thing every year. The home rule comes up, and it doesn't really do anything for people that had a pre-existing ordinance like we have.
Okay, so when you say you have to follow the fee structure, does that mean that you could not any longer charge $100 per bedroom? I don't even remember if that was passed. Did you guys pass that? I know that was Veach's thing.
It did pass. We revisited it just a couple weeks ago at another meeting to talk about it. But whatever the fee structure is that comes out, John has told me that we would more than likely have to follow that.
Okay, so that does mean
it was $50. Holly was right; it was $50. But I think on Friday when it went through and went to the House, there was some language changed. I mean, this we're kind of in that crunch zone now with all these bills. Where again, I'm learning so much. I've never paid so much attention to this as I have, obviously, over the last 7 months, and it's almost a daily occurrence where some language changes, where something gets crossed out. So we won't really know exactly what it means until that final vote happens, if it passes. If it doesn't pass, then it's irrelevant. But
just
people are keeping a close eye on it.
Just to clarify, you would have to eliminate the $100 per bedroom because this is a big deal for a lot of people. You would have to only charge $150 total.
That's what. Yes, we would have to follow the fee structure laid out by the legislature through this, is what John had told me today.
Okay, so then the fact that you've had an ordinance before 2011 and you're grandfathered in doesn't cover everything. And so Herron will have to get involved to try and figure out what it does cover, I guess, right?
Yeah, his law firm obviously will have to pay attention, and they're going to have to bring it to us and say we have to make changes to our ordinance based on this. But the big thing that I was worried about was it going to take away our ability that we had before to what's determined as a monthly street, a weekly street, a daily street, that kind of stuff, and that would not have an effect on us through this bill.
It seems like there's no rhyme or reason for monthly street, weekly street, whatever street. How those rules were created back in the beginning do you know what the history is of that? Because it almost seems like in some places one side of the street is one thing and the other side of the street is another thing. And I asked a homeowner this one time, and they had no explanation for it.
I don't know the complete history on it. Anita would probably be a better person to ask about that, because that was obviously before my time. I didn't even live here in 2011, so that was before me. But the this bill, this House Bill 833 and Senate Bill 714, they are more from municipalities that don't have anything in place. So there's a chance it might not pass. I mean, this has been tried over the last several years. Again, as long as I've been paying attention, this legislation has tried at some level to try to pass. Not a lot of people are happy about it, especially municipalities that don't have a short-term rental ordinance now. That they feel that this is forcing them to do something that it takes away their power essentially, and that's
Sure.
part of the home rule thing.
Yeah. So, did we miss anything tonight that you want to make sure? The meeting is 6 to 8 o'clock Thursday. I know somebody asked that. 6 to 8 at Diamond Head. Of course, all the meetings are at Diamond Head.
Yeah, until we get a permanent place to set up shop. I mean, hopefully we can be good tenants there as long as they'll let us.
Now, do you have a better understanding of where town hall might be, or what it might be before the rebuilding starts?
No, not yet. We got to get the building down that sits there now. We may have to move we have a contract to stay where we're at until November.
Okay.
Unless something changes between now and that with the fire district. We're looking at all the options with them. We're discussing options with them. We're discussing options of, the more or less it's going to be in the trailers. I think that's going to be our only solution at this point. We're not going to get something built that fast.
Right.
So it's just a matter of where those trailers are going to be, whether it's where they're sitting now, whether it's town hall property, whether it's Bay Oaks. We just don't know yet.
Well, I read the latest proposal, the interlocal agreement between the town and the school board today, and I believe in there it says that you can't use Bay Oaks as a town hall. At least that's what maybe that.
Building, yeah, the building you can't use.
Oh, I see. You might put the trailers on the property. I see.
Right. Yeah, not the building itself. I haven't read the latest interlocal that came out. I was going to do that after the show, but yeah, it's strictly the building where the after school.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And Andy was sitting in his chair today. I mean, he doesn't even officially start, I don't think, but he was sitting there. So he had 3 town managers.
Today was his first official day. Keith actually gave up his office, and so he's got his own office sitting in there now. He's taking Keith's chair, and Keith has moved into where I kind of sit in I'm in the back corner by the bathroom. So and they put me in the back.
You shouldn't even have an office in town hall. Get the hell out of there. What are you doing?
Well, it's not necessarily mine. It was kind of if council members wanted to go in and have a place to meet with residents, or FDM was in there. It was just kind of it's a room to allow us to meet with people if we need to.
Gotcha. The vice mayor was really pushing hard for there to be some kind of extension of Chris and Keith's contract, and it was almost a little bit awkward for me to watch that because Andy's there now. He's the town manager. I think let him decide, or let him if he wants to. I'm sure if he wanted to call them, he could call them anytime. But I also understand there's so many different ways to get money, or ways you need to apply for money, and they do have a ton of experience with the state legislature, but he's there now and he's the town manager, so he should decide whether he needs the help, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the vice mayor raised a lot of valid points, and I think we all agreed with him. But in my opinion, at the end of the day, he is the one in charge. It's the reason we hired him. I don't feel that if he needs that help, I don't think he'd be too shy to ask for it.
Right.
I think he actually said it in the meeting that he would welcome that to a certain level. It's just, but I think that decision has to come from those three as to what Keith and Chris would be willing to do, to what extent. They wanted to get back to being retired, so but knowing them like I know them now, that they would pick up the phone anytime we called and asked for help. I think that they would be willing to help us. So I think over the next 2 weeks, we'll get a better understanding of, how Andy's doing with picking up the plethora of information he's going to have to absorb very quickly. And he's not bashful if he feels that he needs the assistance. I have every confidence in the world that he'll reach out and help. It's not a pride thing. It's doing what's in the best interest.
Right. And those two have said repeatedly how they fell in love with the community. So they're not going to just run out the door on the 15th. They really do like it here. Yeah,
they'll go back to to their homes, I'm sure, and I bet we'll be hearing from them sooner than later. They've really taken a liking to the island, and I think they're true and genuine about that. And as I've said before, that they're now part of it. They're F&B family now. Those guys will
Yeah.
be part of our community and part of our family forever. So when the history books are written down the road, their names will be right there.
All right, Dan, we appreciate it. Episode number 21 in the books, and we'll see you Thursday for sure at that meeting on Thursday night.
You got it. We'll talk to you
All
then.
right. Mayor Dan Allers, everybody. And the again, that meeting is Thursday night at Diamond Head from 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock. And you should probably attend that so you can have input with the committee. Resilient Lee is the name of the committee under Kevin Ruane's he's the chair of that committee, and they're going to be deciding where a lot of the money goes. So if you have a chance to stop by on a Thursday night, I understand the town is going to broadcast that meeting, so we'll rebroadcast it on our page. So if you're not in town, you can watch the meeting, and I don't know if they'll be able to take questions that way, but worst case scenarios, we can pass them along. Keep a list of the questions. Before we go, I want to remind you that Valerie's Lounge and Liquors across from the Walmart down by Fort Myers Beach is open. They're like a Cheers bar, and everybody loves to go to a bar or a lounge where they know your name. And tonight, I believe, is Drag Queen Bingo. Yes, May 1st, benefiting Miss Betty, the hostess of Drag Queen Bingo at the Naughty Parrot for years. Miss Betty is 90 years old, and she was hit hard by the hurricane. Each month, a new charity will be named for Drag Queen Bingo. And Valerie's Lounge and Liquors, you can check them out right across the street from the Walmart. They are open 7 days a week, Saturday through Monday, 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. Tuesday through Friday. Give them a call, check them out. We want to thank everybody for, again, coming to our event on Saturday night at the Moss Marina, and we hope you're registered for the 5K race. The shirts are starting to come in for the race. Those of you that are running it virtually, we will mail them out to you in the next 10 days. The start line and the finish line going to be right in Times Square. It's going to be a spectacular event the day before Mother's Day. Don't forget your moms. And one final note, we are taking a break from the Friday night happy hour show. Not for any reason other than we need some time together. We need to do a little more private bonding, the wife and I. Hopefully she'll be open to that. No, but we want to thank JJ and Jason for their many years of support of the show. And they're always there for us. And it was going fine. It was going great. But after a while, you just got to cut back on a few things and spend some time together before you kill each other or get divorced. And so that's one of the first things. So we'll see you Saturday morning at Wahoo Willie's. Bye-bye.